If you're trying to break into cybersecurity with just certifications, then you're in for a challenge. You're competing with thousands of individuals. So today, I'm going to help you stand out by giving you the tools you need to build a home lab. Now, a home lab is a environment where you get to practice, where you get to break things, where you get to troubleshoot things before you enter an enterprise environment. My name is Jamia Williams, and this is how to build a home lab and what you need so that you can be successful for those interviews. First, let's start with virtualization. You will need a virtualization host to be able to conduct your operations. Now, virtualization is when you use a software that emulates a physical computer. Now, you can't have a Windows server on your computer because it'll wipe your whole infrastructure that you have going on currently. So it's important to download a virtualization software such as VirtualBox to be able to conduct your operations. Now, the first tool I think is very important for you to get experience in is the Active Directory and Windows Server. So, two actually. So, Windows Server is something that a lot of enterprises use. It's a server, which is something that offers resources, data, and services to other endpoints or clients. So, not download, install Active Directory on it so you can have experience with domain controllers, which is what Active Directory is, as well as domain name system. You will have to hook this up so when you connect your other endpoints, which is like a laptop, you'll be able to connect them to the Active Directory. You'll also have to set up DHCP, and in this area, you'll have to set it to static so that when you connect endpoints, it's not always changing. DHCPs have leases and they expire and then they configure a new setup for your Windows server. So it's important to set it to static as well as your domain name system. Now in Active Directory, you'll be able to set up organizational units, policies, create users, and do computer management. Now let's talk about Linux. This is a big one. A lot of enterprises use Linux as well. So when you see in the job description, oh, must have Linux experience, you can say you have it. So Linux is a type of operating system company. And I personally use Ubuntu. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to install Ubuntu server on one of my endpoints because of a firmware issue. So I just downloaded Ubuntu desktop, and from there, I have a virtualization environment on my virtualization host, my on my virtualization host, the Linux on my virtualization host with Ubuntu desktop, I have VirtualBox, and from there, I have my Ubuntu server. This gives you experience with command lines, installing applications, and just getting familiar with the operating system in the server. You'll use Kali Linux for a lot of pen testing if you get into ethical hacking. So with Linux, you get to learn file permissions, SSH, services, bash commands, package management, and log files. Now let's talk about networking. Networking is the base to cybersecurity because essentially cybersecurity is protecting networks, people, processes, and technology. Now, when it comes to networking, I highly recommend setting up multiple endpoints via your virtualization hosts. This will give you the opportunity to create VLANs. You can do routing, you can do switching, you can do domain name system, DHCP, firewalls, TCP, and Wireshark. Now, Wireshark is a tool where you get to analyze packets. It's a great way to get familiar with packet headers, assess the network traffic, and overall just get familiar with what networking looks like, how data is transmitted through a network. Now, databases. Oh, this is a big one. You will see a lot of things about database administration. So it's great to get familiar with SQL Server. A lot of organizations use SQL Server. So you can download the SSMS and get familiar with creating databases, setting up security, row-level security, PostgreSQL. You can use MySQL. Here you can practice building tables, map out relationships, learn CRUD operations, which is create, read, update, and delete permissions, basic security, and backups. Cybersecurity professionals investigate databases. So it's very important to understand the fundamentals. And I do have a video going over what a database is. Just a quick video. Check it out if you need some extra information. And then learn about ERD diagrams, because that is the base of a database. That is a diagram that shows how a database operates. So from there, you can learn what an entity is. You can learn what the attribute is. You can learn the relationships. Now, cloud. Cloud is huge because a lot of organizations are migrating from on-premise to cloud environments. Now, cloud environments are essentially where you can host a lot of things online rather than having it within the organization. So it's very, very imperative to get familiar with migration. As mentioned already, virtual machines, virtual networks, storage, identity, and access management, and more. So you can always get additional certifications through Microsoft. That's a good cloud environment that you can utilize. Azure, Enter ID, all that good stuff. Now let's cover security tools. So if you have a Windows computer, you most likely already have Microsoft Defender set up. So it's very important to get familiar with that, and to get familiar with SIEMs. Now, a SIEM is a security information and event management system. Now, a SIEM is a software that connects other softwares to it, so you can just have an environment, a hub, to view all of the analytics without having to click through multiple tabs or multiple applications to view what is going on within your network. Nmap is great for enumeration. That's where you get to evaluate what ports are open and what are closed when you don't get a response. So very important to check out Nmap. And then, as mentioned already, Wireshark. Now, PowerShell. I know you see PowerShell in those job descriptions. It's very important to get familiar with creating users within it, disabling accounts, gathering system information, and doing automation with repetitive tasks. Just get familiar with the commands. Now, documentation is very important. Document your whole home environment so you'll have a portfolio to talk about within your interviews. Documentation is so important in cybersecurity and in information technology in general. So get familiar with taking screenshots of the analytics, of the setup, of everything, so that you have something to reference. Now, lastly, it's the mindset. You have to always be willing to adapt, learn, and grow in this field, because the environment is always evolving. There's always new attacks coming out. There's always some patches coming out. So it's very familiar to get familiar with being informed about these things. It's all about the mindset first before you can set up the home lab, before you can hop into these interviews, before anything. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you would like for me to show you how to configure some of these tools, I will be more than happy to do so. So leave a comment down below. If you're interested in more topics such as cybersecurity, information technology, and risk management, then this channel is for you. So please don't hesitate to like and subscribe, and thank you for tuning in.